Welcome to At Your Service, the service management podcast on the CRM Audio Network, with your hosts, Shawn Tabor and Scott LaFonte. Resco is a leading provider of mobile solutions for Dynamics 365. Resco Mobile CRM is an invaluable tool for the field service engineer working in field service for Dynamics 365. Other solutions from Resco include Route Planner, which combines geographic and calendar data, even taking into account variables such as traffic and weather, to ensure that your field agents plan the optimal route possible to their work sites. Resco also offers inspections, which allows you to create, assign, complete, and evaluate field inspections with ease. Inspections enables you to shape every step of your inspection process. For more information on these solutions, or to request a demo for any of their offerings, visit www.resco.net. We thank Resco for sponsoring this episode of At Your Service. Hello and welcome. It's been a little bit to another episode of At Your Service. And if you're new to the podcast, we are the service management related podcast on the CRM Audio Network, where we talk field service, project service, and customer service exclusively. And now that we have the release of CDS 2.0 and Power Apps, we'll throw a little ad in there every now and then too. As always, I am your host, Shawn Tabor, and also, as every other episode, my co-host, Scott LaFonte. How you doing, Scott?
I'm doing well, Shawn. How are you?
You know, it's been a while since we've been on, so it's I think there's a little rust. We got to knock the rust off and get into this. But
get a little WD-40.
A little bit. You know, a little oil can never hurt nobody. So there's been a lot that's gone on that we're going to talk about in field service, project service, and customer service. But first, I want to do a little news update. We got some news items. What do you think of that? It's a nice little
news
segment.
Flash.
Yeah, a little news segment. So, what first thing I want to talk about is for those of you who have never attended an event called D365 Saturdays, we have one coming up next month, June 9th in Atlanta.
Atlanta in June. Nice.
You betcha. This is going to be at the Microsoft Technology Center in Alpharetta. And there's going to be, topics on portals, business intelligence and Power BI, Power Apps, CDS 2.0, integration with Azure, social selling with LinkedIn Sales Navigator, all kinds of cool stuff. And yours truly will be a speaker. So if you want to come hear me talk about Power Apps, this is your chance. Let me tell you. So this is going to be fun, and I'm really excited. I'm honored to have been invited to talk, and thank you to Gus Gonzalez for getting me included. And that's going to be a fun event. So you can go to we'll include the link to the event in the show notes, and you can register now. And space is filling up quick. It's going to be in 23 days. So I'm excited. That's going to be fun.
Yeah, can't beat it. Atlanta in June with nice weather. It beats May or March and February that we had. So, yeah, enjoy it.
That is true. And the last time we were in Atlanta, we were at the Resco conference, and that was fun. So
yeah, it was a blast.
If this is as much fun as that was, then it'll be all right. The next thing we got on the news item is it's a little bit of a pet project that myself and Sarah Critchley, fellow MVP from the UK, have been working on. And it's now to a point where we could actually talk about it, and I'm pretty excited about it. What we are doing, we're working with the D365 user group, or the CRM user group, as most people know about it. And we're creating a virtual conference. And it's all based on the things we know and love here on At Your Service: customer service, field service, and project service, as well as some Power Apps. And it's called the Dynamics 365 UG Service Summer Camp.
Ooh, summer camp. I like summer camp.
Yes, I do too.
Love summer camp.
I went to summer camp as a child, Boy Scout summer camp, day camp. Didn't stay overnight because, didn't like the bugs. But, there's no bugs in this virtual summer camp. And the cool thing is it's going to be over 3 days, August 5th through 7th. And you'll be able to register soon on the CRM UG or D365 UG sites. And we're going to have a lot of sessions. It's a global event. So we'll be starting right around 9 o'clock Eastern and go to about 4 o'clock Eastern. But we're going to offer content all day for 3 days in the 3 different tracks. And we're working on a call for proposals now. So if you're interested in participating, we'll get our call for proposals link out there. And we'll be excited to see what kind of content you have to offer. And again, it's focusing on customer service, field service, and project service. So
I might have a couple ideas. Just may.
Yeah. Well, I hope so because you're already on the list. So yeah. If you want to attend a session from myself or Mr. LaFonte, or even from the parent podcast, CRM Audio, Mr. Lindstrom, this is your chance. So it's going to be exciting. And who knows, maybe we'll even do a live at your service. You never know.
Joel Lindstrom, the godfather of podcasting.
I like to call him the podfather.
That works too.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so that's the news. Let's get back into the core stuff. We've been gone a month, and we won't let that happen again. But scheduling conflicts are what they are. There's been a lot of updates to the various applications that we follow here on the podcast, including Universal Resource Scheduling. So there's 2 releases, actually, April and May. A lot of cool stuff. You want to talk about that a little bit and talk about what the things that you like the best out of that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's a great segue. So as Shawn mentioned, we've been gone for a while. So Microsoft has been extremely busy in the service area and universal resource scheduling. The April release to me is just chock full of awesome new features and enhancements to the schedule board. Some of the ones that I like, so I'll rattle off a couple of these, and we can also include the links if we have to. But the ability to book based on the estimated time of arrival, that's a new one. That's probably something I've heard quite a bit of time in terms of estimated time. Displaying up to 14 days on an hourly schedule board. So you get to see more content over a prolonged period of time. Now you have the capability to collapse the resources so you can see more resources on the schedule board. So if you have a lot of resources, 50, 100, 150, I'm not saying you're going to see all of those on the schedule board at once, but now you have the capability to collapse it and you don't have to see the little image icon, you'll just see the name. And so this way the schedule board has more resources on there to go ahead and schedule. So I think those are some of the really cool ones. The other one I like is the ability to change the booking status from the multi-day schedule board. Back before this release, if you were on a multi-day schedule board, you could really just look at what was scheduled, and you can hover over it and see all the details, but you couldn't change the status. You couldn't go ahead and do much. You actually had to go to the single day view. So that one gives the dispatchers a lot more flexibility when they're looking at the schedule board. In terms of the May release, the May release I think has some pretty cool, and I would call them like enhancements, maybe some more styling content. So they've worked a little bit on redundancy on canceling options on the multi-day schedule board. So you no longer have to go to cancel and then cancel again. So that was kind of nice. They got some zoom features on there as well, so you can zoom in on some content on the schedule board. It's just a little bit more stylish and more, I guess, more on the UI side of appealing to the dispatchers. To me, though, Shawn, the April one is really the one that has the that I was excited about when I saw and started playing with. Again, especially I think one of my favorite features is doing that book based on, which allows you to book by that estimated travel or estimated arrival time. I thought that was a pretty cool feature.
Right, especially if you're in a situation where you're really concerned about when they're going to be on site. We've had customers where that's a very important thing, especially when you have situations where you have customers who are not only relying on your resources to provide maintenance on your equipment, but they also have a internal system that we have to integrate with. Like, let's say, for example, a system like Corrigo, where they have their own work orders within their organization, that we have to then notify them when they're on site. This gives us the ability to calculate that estimated travel time and get a better feel for when that's going to happen, and we can look at variances. There's a lot of cool capabilities that could be uncovered with this capability. So, I agree. This is a really cool piece of functionality for universal resource scheduling.
Yeah, and if you just even look at the blog on it, and the capability of when you're hovering over and it's telling you where to book and how many minutes of travel time to go from this work order to the next one or whatever it may be. It's just really cool from a visualization standpoint for a dispatcher. Many organizations, they want to implement real-time GPS on their resources, but it's not always feasible, right? And then you have resources that are in places where they're not. There's connectivity is not really that good, or they don't have it. So this, at least, if they know where they're supposed to be and where they're supposed to be going, now to be able to see that travel time, from a dispatcher, that's pretty invaluable. At least it gives them some sort of indicator of when they should arrive to a certain location.
And and there's another feature in the April release that I thought was kind of cool, is allowing customers to launch Schedule Assistant and pass parameters using the URL. So before you could do the search date range, but now you could even go deeper and pass the date and the time when using the URL to open the schedule board. That's a kind of a neat piece of functionality, especially for, it gives you multiple methods to open that schedule board. You could do it from, even an Excel spreadsheet if you wanted to, right?
Yeah,
as long as you have the URL. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that does give a lot more flexibility. So I think if I look at it from where we've come to now, with even the acquisition of Field One, and then it became Field Service. I mean, the schedule board has evolved massively over time, to the point where I never even thought we would get this quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to give my hats off to the product team over at Microsoft. They're just doing a fantastic job with universal resource scheduling. And Dan Gittler, shout out to Dan Gittler with that program manager for URS. Just fantastic.
Yep, agreed. You got to get him on the pod sometime.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'd love to pick his brain and get him on here and talk about scheduling, because it's like we all have it with our customers. There's all of these variations of scheduling, and I think between the schedule board and the schedule assistant, and now even route schedule optimization, that's even been evolving. We had a release this past month. The flexibility to customers to schedule in various ways is just it's incredible.
Yeah, and in the monthly release cadence that we're seeing, not only in universal resource scheduling, but field service and project service, really speaks to the commitment that they have in making sure that this is, one of the best in breed solutions in all three components. So it's nice to see that bugs are being fixed. People submitting on ideas are getting those enhancements that they've been asking for. So and you can see throughout these blog posts about the updates, which we'll put the links in the show notes. You can see where they reference about when they're getting feedback from customers. So it's nice to see that loop is getting closed. We had a couple releases in field service and project service as well. For the May release in field service, there was a few bugs fixed. I think the biggest for one that I've experienced was in field service, the business process error when canceling an RMA. They fixed that. That was something that was slightly annoying for me, but but and there was a couple other bugs. One with opportunity and quote being set before the entity dictionary was loaded. I didn't encounter that, but it's good to see those were fixed.
Yeah, there's been a couple enhancements. There's been some things we've installed in our environment. We did a fresh 9.0.2 install, and on the field service administrative side, if you're used to going in there and setting things like inactivate a work order when it's closed posted and things like that, you'll see that those things are no longer on that view, and if you look in the back end, they've been deprecated. So a couple little different things there, and some people I know may be upset. Some customers may say, hey, I like when it's inactive, when it goes to close posted or close canceled. Well, you could still do that with a workflow if you want to, but this way it keeps those records active. And with the whole idea of the editable grid, now you can just filter those out, or you can even just build in system views that have those in closed posted or what have you, and instead of inactivating them.
And we'll try to get it's been a little bit since we've had a new blog post on the At Your Service Pod site, and our blog is at yourservicepod.com if you're interested. So maybe that's a fine topic for a blog post.
Yeah, definitely. So I've run into a couple little interesting things here and there, and just because I'm so used to seeing things, right? It's been so many different releases, and all of a sudden you go in and like, well, wait a minute, this looks different. And so just kind of some of those gotchas, because it's we all get real busy with projects, and we had our customer conference and our all hands meeting. So we get kind of busy preparing for those presentations and conferences, and then all of a sudden you miss a release or two, and you're like, "Whoa, what happened?"
Right. And something else that was talked about while we were gone, and we talked a little bit about it on the CRM Audio podcast, is the spring update with Power Apps and CDS 2.0. Now, if you're listening, you might be saying, yeah, you just talked about that on CRM Audio. Why do you care about this, Shawn? Well, there is something that impacts our audience here at Your Service. In all our entities within Dynamics 365 are considered to be that of the restricted entities. So what does that mean? So the entities for customer service, field service, and project service automation are considered restricted entities because they require specific licensing in order for Power Apps to interact with them, right? So I believe we had a post on Tip of the Day, if I'm not mistaken. I'll double check that and put that in the show notes if that's correct, about the licensing tiers for Plan Power Apps, Plan 1, Plan 2, and Dynamics 365 Plan. And for the restricted entities, if you have licensing under the Dynamics 365 plan, then you can interact freely with those entities in field, customer, and project service via Power Apps and Flow. If you do not, then you have to have an appropriate Power Apps plan to do so. So it's kind of interesting how that's all working out. The other nice little rub is if you want to do more than just read the data in a Power App for our pillars, then you need to have Dynamics 365 plan licensing, not the P1 or P2. P2 would give you read access to the restricted entities. So it's kind of neat the way that this whole platform is exploding and giving us so many capabilities. But we have to keep in mind how that structure works, how that licensing is impacting our service or originated objects.
Yeah, that you raise a really good point, because I think a lot of people are really excited about the advent of Power Apps. I mean, Power Apps and Flow and CDS, all of these technologies are really coming into play. I mean, even I'm building Power Apps, right? So if I can do it, anyone can do it. But to your point, you need to make sure you have the right licensing. You don't want to go ahead and if you're a consultant, tell your customer, oh, we can build a Power App for that, and then all of a sudden you start designing that, you get them all excited, and oh no, we don't have the licensing for that. Well, that becomes a big problem. Right. So my advice would be, do your homework, read up on it, make sure you understand what all those restricted entities are, make sure you are really well versed in the licensing plans. There's a lot of content out there on Power Apps and licenses for Dynamics and Power Apps. So definitely make sure you're well versed in that. Bookmark them, whatever you need to do.
Exactly. And, speaking of Power Apps and the capabilities that it provides, there's a neat tool that's out there that I didn't know about until recently. And it's really for the Dynamics 365 and model-driven standalone apps that you can build via powerapps.com. And that's something called Easy Repro for Dynamics 365. So with this tool, you can use it to build and test your D365 or model-driven apps using Power Apps, and you can all the documentation and project files needed to start building test suites are on GitHub. And again, we'll put a link in the show notes. But it's cool that we're already getting a testing tool this quick for Power Apps. Now, if this has been out for a while and I haven't known it, well, then it's still great to have the tool. But my point is still the same. It's great to have this kind of capability and extendability for testing of Power Apps, so that it's not kind of like the Wild Wild West, right? So that's exciting to see as well.
And I think that there's, if I'm not mistaken, there's something along the lines of about 100 or so tests for the web client and 50 or so for the UCI,
right?
And spanning all like bunch of different entities that we would think of: accounts, contacts, opportunities, leads, cases, whatever it may be. And those are just the samples, and then of course you can go ahead and customize for the testing that you need to do. So
right, and this tool also gives you browser support. So you can test the different browsers. You can get client telemetry on your Power Apps. Really cool tool. So I would encourage everybody to check that out if you're interested in building Power Apps and getting the most out of it. Well, that's the big chunk of stuff that's been going on since our time away, and we got a great update from our folks. From the folks at Resco coming up here in a minute. But any parting thoughts before we call it a pod?
Oh God, how many? Let's see. Well, I'm excited that my Yankees are in first place. So woohoo, go there first.
I knew you were going to do that.
Go there first.
It's a long year.
It is a long year.
Let's talk about the Celtics. We can do that.
We
go Celtics.
I think for me, my parting words or advice would be, stay on top of the technology. Not just the core D365, and for us, the three service pillars. It's everything that feeds into it, that flows out. that you can use with it, whether it's Power BI, Flow, Power Apps, whatever it may be. If you haven't explored some of those different ones because maybe you're nervous to get going, or you just think you're too busy, or it's not, it's really not your cup of tea, just branch out. Just branch out, build a flow, build a Power App, start exploring and playing with it, and get familiar with it, because it's here and it's coming, it's staying, and it's going to be a big deal. I see it a lot at our customers now where Power Apps are going to be just critical. So that's just my parting.
Yeah, and there's no better way to keep up with the entire platform and everything it offers than listening to our sister podcasts on the CRM Audio Network, my friend. From Power BI with Ulrich, CRM chart guy Carlson, to Keeping Up with Agile with Neil Benson's podcast, or just staying in tune with various news items from the CRM Audio podcast. We got a lot of stuff to offer, so if you haven't checked those other podcasts out, as well as Implement This with Britta and Matt, I can't forget them. Check it out. We got a lot of good content. And check out CRM Tip of the Day. There's always a good tip or two, every day, pretty much. Hence the name, CRM Tip of the Day. And again, I encourage everyone, if you're not already a member, check out CRM UG or Dynamics 365 UG. There's a lot of good content there. And as I mentioned, we'll have our Service Summer Camp as an example of some of the stuff that they offer there, and their annual summit events coming up this fall, and Focus is right around the corner. So a lot of opportunities to stay up to date on your training and keep abreast of what's going on with the platform. But I think we've done everything we can do here on this episode, Mr. LaFonte.
Yep.
So I think it's time to hand it over to Agnes from our friends at Resco for the Resco Minute.
Hello and welcome to this week's podcast. For those of you that are unfamiliar with my voice, my name is Agnes. I am the Director of Marketing here at Resco, and today I'd like to go over a bit about how Resco Mobile CRM actually works when it comes to data. So the alpha and omega of using CRMs on the go is, of course, data. Access to data wherever and whenever is an absolute must. The Resco Mobile CRM app actually has this completely covered. It offers two types of approaches to data that can be used whenever and wherever needed. There's, of course, an online mode and an offline mode. So just a little brief run through. When it comes to online mode, in this situation where you have a strong and stable internet connection to the CRM, you can actually use the online mode to work with the CRM data directly on the CRM server. So records that you see are directly from the CRM server itself. Updates and saves are also immediately reflected on the server. Of course, including triggering of workflows, plugins, and more. When it comes to offline mode, so you may need to also work under these conditions where it's also frequent in terms of internet connectivity, where it be, poor, or the internet connectivity is just not stable, or it's just completely not there. For this case, there's offline mode in Resco Mobile CRM, and the offline mode for the app itself uses the local offline base or offline database to work with the CRM data. So all the records that should be available in offline mode need to be synchronized, so downloaded from the CRM server to the local offline database. Also, changes made in offline mode need to be synchronized or uploaded to the CRM server. So the synchronization works automatically. It updates the changes or the created records in offline mode to the CRM server, and vice versa. Changes made on the CRM server, so example, also those that are synchronized by other users using the Resco Mobile CRM app are also downloaded. Then there's a few other important factors to know about how the Resco Mobile CRM app works in terms of data with regards to synchronizations, full syncs, and incremental syncs. So synchronization filters, these are to define what records from the CRM server should be available in offline mode. They are defined using synchronization filters for each entity separately. So there are two types of synchronizations, as I mentioned, an initial full sync and an incremental sync. So the full sync is performed when the Resco Mobile CRM app is used for the first time after installation, or when it does not have any data in the local offline database. So for example, the performed delete data from the Resco Mobile CRM app setup. So in case of such synchronization, the Resco Mobile CRM app downloads the data from the CRM server depending on the sync filter. So the sync filter is used to define what data is being downloaded to the Resco Mobile app, its local offline database. When it comes to incremental sync, in case of when this occurs, the actual mobile CRM app downloads all the records that the user has permission for and that were created or updated since the last synchronization. And after the download, synchronization filters are used to remove the records that do not follow the conditions. These are the only ones that are kept, like the records that do not follow the sync filters in the local offline database. And that's pretty much it when it comes to how Resco Mobile CRM, the actual mobile app, works when it comes to data. I'll go into a little bit more detail possibly next time around when it comes to online syncs, automation of syncs, auto background syncs, and of course, the on change of modes. So thanks for tuning in this week, and we'll catch you later next time. Have a good one. Bye.
On behalf of myself, Sean Tabor, my co-host Scott LaFonte, and the Dynamics 365 diva Sarah Jelinek, we thank you for listening and subscribing to the podcast. You can reach us at voice@crm.audio. On Twitter, you can follow us, CRM Hobbit for me, for Scott, at FLD service_guru, and of course, at Dyne365 diva for Sarah. For more information and content about what we spoke about on this episode and others, visit our blog at atyourservicepod.com. This has been At Your Service on the CRM Audio Network, a production of Dynamic Podcasts, LLC.